So we're getting ready to start, and it's great to welcome you all to the Authors and Artists Festival Rewilding. My name is Lise McLaughlin, and I'm your host from Nature Culture. Our sponsors include the New England Grassroots Environment Fund, Mary King, Kathy Cremens, and Rescue Poetics. The festival is brought to you with help from the Nature Imaginarium, Human Error Publishing, and Score.org. Thank you to our sponsors, our colleagues, all our presenters, and you for being here. This is a special presentation of poetry from our headline poet, Catalina Cantú. Catalina Marie Cantú, Chican X of Indigenous fellow Mexican Madeiran heritage, is a poet, multi-genre writer, interdisciplinary artist, Jack Straw Fellow, and alum of Vona Voices, Quali, and the Mineral School. Her poems and stories have been published and anthologized, including in Writing the Land. Please welcome our headline poet, Catalina Cantú.
Thank you so much, Lise, for your support. And the whole idea of being a headline poet is just, I'm sometimes a bit overwhelmed by it, but I appreciate the opportunity. And I have several poems that I'd like to share with you all today. It's 12:30 in Seattle, and the sun is actually coming out. So the first one is about a park called Lincoln Park that I wrote for the Seattle Digital Poetry Map back in 2017, that our first Seattle Civic poet, Claudia Castro Luna, who read earlier today, developed and did a call out for people to write about their favorite neighborhood. And Lincoln Park is just down the hill from my house. It was designed by the Olmsted brothers, also known for designing Central Park. And it had to be fairly short to fit. So, Lincoln Park. Inhale, pungent pines, crunch needles underfoot. Gulp marine air, revive your senses. Waves roar lullabies. Gulls murmur lunch. Seaweed to stones shelter tiny crustaceans. Crystal-cloaked Olympics crown Puget Sound, now known as the Salish Sea. Exhale. Lincoln Park. Now, the next poem I wrote for a 50-word poem, Poetry on the Buses, and I decided to challenge myself and write it in English and Spanish with the help of a dear friend, Carlos Cibaja, who helped me with the translation. It's called Reflections on Home. And again, a note on writing in two languages. Not all words match up evenly. So this was a bit of a challenge, but thanks to Carlos's help, I was able to keep 50 words on each side of the language. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read each line in English and then Spanish. Reflections on Home, Reflexiones en Casa. Climbing rose petals, escalando pétalos de rosa, pink as my cat's ear. Rosa como los oídos de mis gatos, whisper, welcome home. Susurran bienvenida a casa. Mom and I, mamá y yo, planted those roses, plantamos esas rosas 40 years ago. Hace 40 años. I was impatient to ride my bike. Yo estaba impaciente por montar mi bicicleta to echo birds' songs. Imito las canciones de las aves as trees spoke to me, mientras los árboles me hablaban. Today I bury Mom, hoy entierro a mamá with pine and roses, con pinos y rosas. I love you, Mom. Te amo, mamá. And this next poem was published in the Jack Straw Writers Program Anthology. more of a prose poem story. It's called Shoes. Sturdy shoes for school, said Mama. We can only afford one pair, and they have to last all year. These Buster Brown Oxfords are indestructible, and look here, why the color, it almost matches her legs, said the clerk. Just add a matching sock, and she'll look 3 inches taller. What do you think, little lady? Boxcar Oxfords, the color of dog dew, extended from my stovepipe legs. I like the red Mary Janes, I said. Dorothy's shoes without the sprinkles. I'll be real careful, Mama. An arched eyebrow, a gentle shake of her curls, a white gloved finger to her lips. Shoes hurt my feet. I refused to wear them at home. Being barefoot was freedom from Mama's rules to dress, sit, and walk like a little lady. Back home in Texas, my primos crowned me a tomboy because I loved to climb trees, did not scream when I picked up worms and bugs, and raced all the brown boys in the neighborhood. Red Keds were my racing shoes. No one could catch me. But now I was going to school up north, had to dress like a girl and wear ugly shoes that demanded to be double tied. Their woven loops flounced with double Dutch jump rope, slick leather soles slipped on tree trunks and wet grass, my knees and shins festooned with band-aids. Awkward and anxious, for my complexion, a complexion on the darker side of Mama's pale, just shy of 3 feet high at age 6. My family nickname was Peanut. And continuing on this home theme, here's another poem also published in the Jack Straw anthology called Back Home. And this was published in Raven Chronicles, the edition that won Best Poetry Award for Washington State in 2022. Papa always referred to Texas as back home. His familia has loved and lived in the Rio Grande Valley at the southern tip of Texas since long before Texas became a state. The United States border came to mi familia. Generation after generation, they continue to live back home. Back home, we can get pan dulce, chorizo, tamales, and fresh tortillas just down the street, Papa said. Up north, everything is canned, not fresh. In San Francisco at the VA, Papa and Mama met as clerks with adjacent desks. After their Catalina Island honeymoon, they received pink slips. Papa was a security guard. Mama was pregnant with me. Back home, Tio Gus owned a dry cleaning business, offered Papa a job. We moved in with mi abuela, mi primos, and I threw lit matches down tarantula holes in her dirt yard, raced radio flyer wagons on bumpy roads, and counted our mosquito bites. Our migration back home was a few years of heat hanging like laundry, mosquito bites tolling in the 90s, Espanol everywhere, and lots of familiar adventures. Then we moved up north. Northwest postage stamp town of chalk people. Wherever my family walked, they stopped us. Hey, you, where you going? What are you? Papa, his wavy ebony hair slicked back, elegant sharkskin suit, tie, and shine shoes, met his inquisitors with a stony gaze. We are Americans. Chalk people chortled and shook their pointed heads. Really? Seriously? Where are you people from? We escaped that time. What did I care if no one looked like me, had a last name that ended in a vowel, or ate Mexican food at home? Must be invisible, invisible to their world, shy, skinny, a brown toothpick in a milk sea, bobbing to survive the Moby Dicks. I feel like I'm reading too fast. Am I reading too fast? This next one I just wrote at a poetry conference called Poets on the Coast. that is for women only. It's up in Lacona, Washington. And we had learned about making up words, using familiar phrases from movies, and lots of sort of metaphors. So this is the first time that it's been read. It hasn't been published because I haven't sent it out yet. It's called Limons. Rough green orb glares at me. Just do it. Cut me. Stainless steel slices swiftly. Twin serpent eyes weep. Here's looking at you, kid. Fork in eyes, prickle throb. Citrus tears bathe volcanic stone basin. Indigenous ancestors' food processor. Molcajete de mi abuela. Century-old mortar and pestle. Inhale pungent liquid salt air memory. Sunday tacos in Iztapa. Tourists shake their heads at the pair selling goods. 10 pesos, por favor. 6 green orbs presented like an offering. I gazed into eyes older than her age of 5. Tourists laughed at us. Hey, I said, she's someone's child helping her familia. I bought the bag of 6 green orbs, limons, bartered them for a bracelet. Whenever I eat limons, limes in English, I remember they were picked by brown hands like mine. Oh, thank you. Just recently commented. Okay. And these next poems are the poems that I wrote for Writing the Land. I am fortunate to be in the Foodways and Social Justice edition. And there's an interesting story that came about this. I'll tell my little backstory. So when Liz told me that I was assigned a farm, and my father grew up on a farm in Texas, I thought it was a farm. I thought it had like a barn and farm animals and crops. And I was like all set to like put on my overalls and go to the farm on Whidbey Island, the second largest island in the United States. And instead I go there and it is probably 5 acres are in hay and the rest of it is blackberry bushes and bramble. And then there's a field where you can see there was a creek. And fortunately, it's right next to South Whidbey Tilth. And so I sat down with the fine people there and they gave me all the history. They showed me pictures. I talked to the landowner who had donated it to the Conservancy. And I thought, gee, this poor land, it didn't really get a shot at being much of anything. So let me tell the story from the land. But then in order to be respectful of that, I need to connect to the indigenous people of this land. So I reached out and reached out and reached out and finally connected with the Snohomish South Whidbey organization. And I told them I wanted to include some words in the poem that were in Lushootseed, which is a Coast Salish language that was spoken. They referred me to their teacher, whose name is Duwamish Thomas Spear. And I had them take a look at the poems. And so one of the things that came up in my workshop earlier today was about cultural appropriation and how we use other languages and how we are respectful, or how can we be respectful for other languages and other cultures that may not be our own or directly related to us. And so I share this journey with you today because it was a journey. It did help me connect to my Indigenous ancestry, and the tribe welcomed me and helped me connect with other Indigenous people. And I'll share what I got from a neighbor, which is, this is sweetgrass. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah. This is braided sweetgrass that a Spokane tribe member, who's a neighbor of my son, gave me to take with me when I read in New York last year for protection and to share at the reading. And so I've got it wrapped up, and so far it's kept for a year. And so when I raise my hands to honor the land, I will be also raising this sweet grass in respect of that process. So first I have a poet's introduction, and then I have 3 poems spoken from the land: who I was, who I am, who will I be. So, poet's introduction. These 3 poems were created by Catalina Cantú, an indigenous Mexican Maderian poet, as a homage to Chukotchi, Whidbey Island, whose First Nations considered her to be a living being. These poems were not intended to speak in the place of Whidbey Island's First Nations, which in 1855 included the Snohomish, Lower Skagit, Swinomish, and Suquamish. We raise our hands to honor Chukotchi, Whidbey Island, and her First Nations. And this was written with Duwamish Thomas Spear over a year ago. And then we go into the land, who I was. I was homeland to the Hootship, Snohomish, the first people who shared my island meadows. Field birds built nests among my bracken ferns, jade nettles, blue camas, and black mountain huckleberry. I was home in every part with a purpose: bracken roots ground into flour for bread, nettles for medicine and dye, with its bark rolled into 2-ply string for fishing and duck nets, camas bulbs harvested like potatoes, huckleberries dried. I was homelands where my Douglas firs, western cedars, and hemlocks touched the sky on a hill above my lower meadow. A forest for longhouses, canoe building, and storm shelter. Past the forest, a clearing with a creek for family living and ceremonies. Then another forest where deer, elk, and bear were hunted for food, their skins good for Northwest winters. I was homelands where the Chahootchee were a short walk to saltwater clams, crabs, ducks, birds, and salmon, a bounty shared by First People in harmony with my nature. We respected and nurtured each other. After every fall harvest, fire cleared my lower meadow. The winter rain extinguished the flames. I was homeland for tens of thousands of years. We believed it would last forever. The land, who I am. Stolen from the children who played in my meadows and climbed my trees, no one asked me why they should not be sent to boarding schools. Sold to a European family to raise cattle. I had never heard the word, yet watched those creatures trample my meadows of bracken, camas, and nettles. Fenced my forest that touched the sky, felled with axes and saws. They built dikes, another word I didn't know. Zoned, divided by a highway, divided again into parcels. My new name, parcel 2, 089235, 10.22 acres, a shadow of my former self. Gifted as farmland. When was I ever a farm? Fruit trees planted and ignored. Next door, South Whidbey tilled farms and gardens. Leased 99 years, a short time, as meadow vernal pools nourish native plants. The land, who will I be? I am still homelands to the Chahootchee Snohomish, our spiritual connection unbreakable. While the creek sings along my crown without baby otters, invasive mountain blackberries strangle my meadows, no bracken, camas, or nettles. I watch as deer and rabbit follow their ancestral trails. On my shoulder, a 50-foot hemlock watches and waits. She gives me courage to believe we have a future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catalina. That was great to hear that out loud all together.
Thank you.
We're going to feature some poets now who are part of the workshop, and some are just part of the festival. So our next reader is M. Angela Castañeda.
Thanks for having me. I'm enjoying the workshop so much and appreciate the opportunity to read. The first work that I'll read comes through family stories from my Castañeda Duran roots. From early on, I was fascinated by the women who fought during the years of the Mexican Revolution. Petra, Angela, Adelita, who sometimes wore men's clothes to be accepted in the fight. I wanted to be like them, fierce and bold. This piece is called Comadre. Comadre is a common term in Mexico used like, I think, a nickname between women, friends, colleagues. And I suppose I fancy having a friendship with one of these women. Comadre, comadres. A woman says a thing, and then he gets wild and filled with dread. What was it that she said to put you on edge, my friend? Deep down, he knows. He knows she knows. This story is a thread that's wound about your head. Back in the days of men, when everything was binary, fue la mujer who bred and fed. Adelita in the foundries, Adelita breaking boundaries. It's a network made of fragile webbing passed along her lifeline, touching love. Rise, mujer, rise. All the while the rough wind blows and the tides ebb and flow. She wore live bullets encased in leather strapped across her heart. She bore it all, lovers, wars, and weather. Las Adelitas, their fight was the spark. Las Adelitas, they made their mark. It was a network made of fragile webbing, passed down her lifeline, touching free. Rise, mujer, rise, all the while the rough wind blows and the tides ebb and flow. No dudes en preservarlo, es la lucha de la mujer por retener lo que se conoce. Un cuento que no se ha dicho bien, una parte íntegra de un viejo tejido que tiene hilos colgando por todas partes. This story is a thread wound about my head. I hear the ancestors sing. Oh, the great machos made some memories, but we will write a new ending. Digamos sus nombres, the true revolutionaries of herstory. You are here, Adelita, even though you aren't, with your bullets and your bold heart. The woven fabric of your dress, protecting soft parts beneath. All the while, the rough wind blows and the tides ebb and flow. The next piece that I'll read is really a personal opening for me, thanks to the movements of this decade, like Me Too and Black Lives Matter. I started really to address raw parts of my own life, like shame, and speaking to the toxic influence of the patriarchy, misogyny in my own life. This piece is called Make Amends. I couldn't understand how to be righteous inside this skin when I was 9 or 10. Way back then, I was just a kid. I wanted to be part of the pack. I was subjected to you, objectified. fracked, relegated to a station, marginalized, designated female retail. Get it? She's so attractive, magnetic, can't help it. Object to be played. When who was to blame, to gain, even as I ran, even as I fought? I thought it was the only way. Blushing through the pain. I refused so many times, but I also took it like a ticket to ride. Who was it said, girl, you're still alive because you pass. Exhausted by the politics, distracted by your covert tricks. Groovy groomer, like a shark, you defiled my innocence. Through the years I've known your arrows thrown, layers of privilege threadbare. I will bear what I was born with. We women, we've suffered the same under you, the patriarchy. At the end of the day, there is no mystery. Eyes open, unafraid, survival of the fittest. And here's the real litmus test. Witness the unveiling of Me Too arrived in our time, righteous and true, where we explode the binary, he, she, love, hate. And by the way, the parts that you ruined are not up for debate. Are you shamed by our rising? Are you toiling in it, rolling over, belly up? Don't beg my forgiveness with that look of confusion, delusion. No rush to embrace. Step up, take fate in your hands. No more faking it. Own up, make amends. Thank you.
Thank you for those powerful poems. Our next reader is Gwyn Moses. I'm delighted to welcome you to the Authors and Artists Festival, and thank you for being here. You're one of our Writing the Land poets, so people should know that too. Thanks.
Yes, I'm going to begin with writing from Writing the Land, Windblown One. And this one is called The Greenway, which will escort me into other versions of the spirit of me and nature. So enjoy. The Greenway. I stand alone in the midst of her watching. I stand alone in the midst of her wandering. Oh, so scented, yet no flowers. Footprints remain on trampling. Moist piles of fertile soil are scraped. The man steers a shaky, roaring tractor. Its blade is held up before the knife slices, ridding of any evidence of flowering. Piercing beeps call upon the sheathable, as if pain is remedy. Hollowing out a blue marble, a China doll's arm, once hitting as Lucky Charms. Will she laugh again? The plot is tossed like casual lovers under silk threads. I stand nearby, leaning on a wise tree. Squirrels nibble garden plants delicately, waiting for spring to turn brittle grass into summer's dust. I stand nearby, weeping and smiling. Reincarnated soul mourn until the new playground is constructed. A nature trail will run the same course, consume life with shared pathology. And I'm in Virginia, so I'm writing a piece here. This piece was written off of Warwick Road, in which they're preparing in the future, we're still proposing a greenway to run through the land. This one is actually titled Warwick Road. Trees foretell the measure of war. Tree heights push concealment of graves much deeper. Train rails shiver between burly trunks. Swift boxcars screech lingering melodies. Tree muscles uphold vibrant headdresses. Birds whistle and squirrels chatter between shining leaves. Tender woods gather bottomless roots. Mighty dark limbs bend. Bleak odors expel. Meek stems droop. Flowers diminish. Brisk winds sway, revering and cursing. Like soldiers in formation, trees grieve horrific tales. Height of trees can be seen way down the road, posturing to defend passing turmoil, on guard to collapse modernistic views. Roots pinned together, soak journeys of angry souls. The fallen, we would never come to know. The height of the trees is the height of war. Thank you. So one more is from one of the newer collections, Migrations and Home, The Elements of Place. And this was written for an anthology in the UK. So this is rather lengthy, so it's I chose this one too because of where we are as a nation. I think it's very befitting as well. Infernal platoons, trees intertwine, swing rhythmically, intermingle, not calamity, interconnect, one strand of lavender intersect, topples a full green branch, interpenetrate its spring. Indescribable, 'tis season for revival. Leaves which dare pay a price for winter's stay. Strangle bark, witness slavish land, darken pistols amid virtuous leaves, create veils, silhouettes mat, openings of flowering, as bullet-ridden soldiers, nail-pinned bodies fall like collapsing beams. Under metallic moonlight, shadows on the riverbank drag fluttering leaves, condemn bowing, shame regrets, pools of marsh, sucking blue-eyed hibiscus, swollen, misplaced. Hope is due to show up only as a surrender. Surrendering to the colors the sunset upon ocean waters blue, brown soil of Mother Earth, mustard and purple water lilies, mimicking pigments of combined skin. Immerse, same disgrace. Freedom is a beggar. Ripples and fight, spools like a river drowning sacrifice. Once strong and fervent, hearts pounded like a last trumpet on a glorious day, calling unto the skies, wherein soldiers' tears welled up, forever to bring forth rain after a dry season, to scorch like fire. Weeping for humankind, kind human, whose countenance will rise up from the waters to be lifted into the skies as such a cunning angels. 'Tis such repeated demise of wars. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwyn Moses. That was beautiful and powerful poems. And thank you for reading from Migrations and Home. That makes all the books have been represented here. So thank you. It was wonderful. Our next reader is Jim Cantú. Welcome, Jim. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. We've got several poems. The first one I'm going to read from is actually Riding the Land Windblown 2. And I'm selecting one of the three poems that I have in here. It's called Broken Circle. Some Klickitat welcomed Lewis and Clark on their long journey. Strange travelers treated with respect like a guest in your home. But Lewis and Clark were just the beginning. Westbound Easterners, different people who saw the land as something not to live with, but to take from. Lands nourished for thousands of years by indigenous local peoples, new peoples who decided to change land and river to meet their needs. Or do I wrong these oft revered champions of progress in industry who ripped their vision of wealth from stolen earth, harvesting trees that took eons to grow, built railroads to carry the stolen treasure, a river not part of their thought nor vision, forced to new paths. Civilization must bludgeon nature into submission. Ask not what you can give to land and river. Ask what river and land can give to you. The next poem is from, also from Writing the Land, New Paths to Freedom. Located on ancestral lands, confederated tribes and bands of the Yakama Nation join other local landowners, residents old and new, with a new goal. New generations bring new ideas. Time for change. A renewed view of land and river. Decades-long planning and partnership give the Klickitat a chance. Create a helpful habitat. Flowing in waves, building new curves, creating new islands. Fallen logs become new neighborhoods with food and shelter, places to pick up a quick bite and not become someone else's lunch. New nurseries for tiny fish. Mule deer, flamuted owl, golden eagle, river otter, black bear, mountain goat, a place for all, even the western fence lizard. A place for people to visit, pine forests, basalt cliffs, oak woodlands, camas flowers, and the longest wild river in Washington state. Take a step back into the past, watch and land and river move forward, creating a new future. A couple of other, hopefully quick poems. I was on a journey, and have you ever noticed how long it takes the sun to set? Each moment leading to another brilliant splash of color as the fading sunlight reflects off the clouds. I prefer slightly cloudy evenings for sunset. Today, the clouds were so tired that they lay draped over the foothills like a layer of cotton candy covering that strip of land. We were traveling just on the edge of the storm, a dark band moving parallel to us, not quite to us. And then the falling sunlight struck a hole in the clouds, turning it into a fiery circle. As the light kissed the bottom of the clouds, they turned pink with delight. And I thought of our first kiss, so fiery and full of delight and promise. The sunlight slowly faded over the mountains. We drove on through the twilight as the heavens let loose. And I thought of angels crying to heal our wounded planet. And the last piece is something I wrote a few years ago, but it's an apology to my grandchildren. Standing on the bluff at Fort Worden, overlooking the Salish Sea, there is a gentle breeze off the water. The evergreens and conifers reach for the clouds as they drift past. The cry of the crow, the gulls screeching a reply. I don't know which one of the 16 species of gull. If I go out on a boat, I may hear the whooshing sound as an orca comes up for breath. I don't know if any of this is left for you to see or hear. We've squandered what nature took tens of thousands of years to create, this special haven for giants, but quick profits are valued more than longevity. As I write this to you, the southern orca post is down to 74. They're starved due to lack of Chinook salmon and the pollution of the sea. Their babies are dying off. This was brought home by a mother orca who carried the dead body of her calf with her around the water for over a week. Perhaps her way of grieving was to show those who caused her child's death the consequence of their inaction and disregard. Most of our human species seek to dominate and destroy nature, to act in a very inhumane way. Pollution, killing off oysters, ignoring the lessons of indigenous people who sought to exist in harmony. But we seem to lose battle after battle in this struggle for the survival of the Salish Sea. The forces of avarice and evil wage new wars to strip away the small havens of refuge in our parks and protected lands. We will continue to struggle with hopes that you will bear witness to an eventual victory. But I fear we will lose, and only the silence will echo my apology. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. That was beautiful. So I'm going to invite each poet to do another short poem if you would like. Jim, do you want to be in?
Okay. This is my song of solitude. Let me sing to you a song of solitude. Darn the torn threads of damaged dreams. Piece together the puzzle of my shattered heart. We promised each other forever, a vow taken with pomp and celebration before family and friends. Nearly 4 decades, how did they pass so quickly? Was I paying attention to the wrong things and the wrong people? Her surprising and soft touch on my neck, a reminder of her love. So hungry for human contact that I grow my hair long, pretending that as my hair brushes my neck, some part of her lingers. Another night of broken promises, forgotten whispers of desire, spoken only to myself.
Thank you. I'm so glad we had time to sneak that one in. Gwyn Moses, do you have another poem for us?
Okay, I would love to read a selection from Virginia Bard's Central Review. And this one was inspired by Robert Frost. It's titled River Song. River Song. I'm going for a walk along the edge of the river to chase and catch fireflies. Watch the moonlight spread its smile. Whisper secrets to the night's wind. Giggle at mating calls. Swat crunchy beetles until the buzzing, hooing, scratching become temptations to fall asleep. You can come too if you can't stand to hear silence at night. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's beautiful. We're going to give M. Angela Castañeda a chance.
This was written for as part of a 3-part first poem in a 3-part series. I'll just read the first one, called Place. Dry, white sand beside, hot flashed by sun, body warm, liquid run, longing for release. River speaks, wound around and bound by a long history, relinquished to sea. Along the bed, vital muck, rich sludge, river love. You are my healthy community. Even rancid leaves retrieved by whirlpools. Surround sound, joyful, lapping, slapping, the ancestor mystery founded long ago. Earth giving tributary, inside or beside you, I am grounded, drowned, cradled in arms, a believer, my river.
Oh, thanks. That was great. Beautiful river poem. And now we're going to end with how we began with our headline poet, Catalina Marie Cantú.
Great. Thank you all. So inspired by your poems. Just want to, I was going to say go home and write, but I'm already home. So anyway, this is Persona poem that I wrote in a workshop at Lit Fuse in Tieton many years ago. And I found it in a notebook, and it just, you know, how you go to these classes and you write things and then you forget about them. And so I would encourage everyone to go back to your notebooks and look for those poems that you wrote in class and, you know, expand on them. And just like the poem I shared earlier, you just never know what's going to happen. This poem was published in Ixitl in Coatli, Flor y Canto, años, 100 años de Poesía Chicanx Latinx, 1920 to 2020. Edición de Gabriel Gutierrez y Mus, Juan Velasco Moreno, y Armando Migueles. It's a really thick book like this. It's 100 years of Chicanx Latinx poetry that I was fortunate to have this poem accepted. Remember, it's a persona poem. If only. Now, honey, your life is in your hands, but people won't give you nothing unless you work for it. And even then, because you a brown girl, you'll have to work twice as hard as them. But you a smart girl, thanks to the brains you inherited from me and willingness to read everything you come across. Learn from what you read. Don't just get by on using your good looks, quick wit, and kindness to strays. You can do well in this godforsaken world of cutthroats, spell weavers, dream snatchers, and breakers of hearts. Just don't let some green-eyed, long-legged, fast-talking young man get a hold of you and twist you like a tornado. Keep your feet on the ground, your head on your shoulders, and your eyes focused on the future, not his. Then, honey, your life is in your hands. Go forth and make it your own. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This has been a great session. So thank you so much, everybody, for reading and for being here to listen to. And we'll see you soon.